to Menopause Unfiltered, where we talk about the down and dirty of menopause and anything goes. We're your host, Ella.
And I'm Michelle. Today, we're excited to have on with us Ali Farhat, CEO and founder of Conquer Your Menopause. Ella and I both work with Ali on addressing our menopause symptoms through dietary changes, a balanced approach to exercise, supplements, and HRT. Ella, does that sound about right to you? Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, Ella, you ready? Let's do this.
All right.
Yeah, Ali, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Can you introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about your background, and also answer a big question that I know you do get often, and that is, why as a man are you interested in helping women going through menopause?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
So my background. So I lost 40 pounds back in 2016, and that got me so passionate about fitness and helping people, get their lives back and feel confident through fitness. So I got my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I worked as a personal trainer for 6 years back in California. And during that stage, I was helping mainly people in their 20s and early 30s. I've never actually helped somebody going through menopause. So I got a couple of referral clients, one that wanted to lose 80 pounds. And
Wow.
all the techniques that were working for my other clients wouldn't work for that lady. So she was experiencing hot flashes and belly fat and fatigue and many symptoms I wasn't familiar with. So I tried to make her come to me often, like 3 days a week. We'd work out and then restrict her calories, and just nothing was working. She was feeling worse. She was gaining more weight, and I just couldn't figure out what's happening. Then I realized there are different hormonal changes happening in a woman's body that I'm not familiar with. I wanted to educate myself about it so I can better help her. So I started looking for courses online, and I found one that I fell in love with. It got me certified as a women's holistic hormone practitioner, and I learned all about the different hormones that fluctuate in the monthly cycle and menopause and thyroid and how low estrogen causes insulin resistance and all these things. And I was able to help her lose those 80 pounds after. And then at the same time, my mom started going through that journey of menopause and experiencing hot flashes. And she was getting no help from her doctor. Her doctor wanted to prescribe her antidepressant or put her on birth control. And that is not the way to go. And I realized that a lot of women have this issue too. They're experiencing so many symptoms and experiencing that weight gain and depression, mood issues and hot flashes, and they are getting no proper help from doctors. And I've heard stories that honestly got me to tears. Women that can't get out of bed because of the extreme depression. They have panic attacks. They can't get out of the house. They're forgetful. They're having 20 hot flashes a day. Women that quit their jobs because of their extreme brain fog. Women that are suicidal. Women that got divorced. It's just so much pain in that these women are experiencing, and they are getting no help. They're not feeling heard. So I just fell in love with this. I felt like this is truly my passion, my calling. Wanted to dedicate my career to that. And I've been blessed to collaborate with my cousin too to help women get bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, which you two are on now. And maybe you can share your experiences of how life-changing it is, instead of, we're addressing the root cause here of the symptoms versus, antidepressant or a sleep med or exercise more and eat less. This is something that is very common said by doctors, making women feel like they're lazy or it's their fault that they've gained this weight, but it's actually all due to hormonal change.
Yeah, I remember when I first started working with you, because I was first, and then Ella joined on with you. So many of the symptoms that you just described, those other women having, I know we can both really relate to: the anxiety, the sleeplessness, the weight gain. And I was going to the gym at least 5 days a week, doing intensive training, not seeing any results. And then I start working with you, and it's like, you're telling me to eat less. Eat more, because my calories, I was really cutting my calories to try to get into that calorie deficit you hear we need to be, but I guess too much. I was eating too little, working out too much. So to come on board with someone who says, eat more, work out less, it's like, what? Of course, I'm on 30 pills a day supplements. I'm kidding. It's only 11. I know we always joke about that.
Always complain. Just 11.
What do you think, Ella? What was your first experience like coming on and working with Ali?
No, yeah, it's just change, just realizing, like what was a big thing was for me was like when you going to the store and all the oils and like the stuff on the labels, um, realizing like, all the stuff that they add. So, and
Yeah.
just reading, getting in there, like it takes you a little bit longer to go shopping, but like I just realized like all that inflammatory stuff, and it's just like what they put into your stuff and like the labels, like,
Yes.
skinny and like how we realize like, okay, everything is skinny, skinny, skinny. And then when Ali goes, you gotta eat more fat. And it's everybody's like, they hear the word fat and they go, no, I don't want to. It's like, it's that's the like the realization, like that everybody's like always go like it's skinny, 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 and but then like it's like when you see your friends and like, oh, you look good, like what's your secret? And I was like, well, it's not a secret. It's just like you have to have the discipline. You have to work. It's not just like a miracle thing. It's like you're not gonna fix you right away. Like you have to work at it. But I mean, so just to bring this back to Ali is like, I'm saying, what do you think is like the biggest challenge that and common challenge that women when they come to you for help with?
So I see this common honesty in about 95% of the women that I try to help with is they're not eating enough. They are under eating less than 1,000 calories a day. And from my experience with talking to hundreds of women, they think that because now they're experiencing menopause and they've gained this belly fat, automatically the first thing they want to do is cut their calories down, restrict food, and start exercising more. But the thing is, they try to do that, but then they realize that the weight is not going away and they're actually gaining more weight. They're feeling more fatigue, worse symptoms. The main thing that happens in menopause when estrogen declines is your cortisol goes up, your stress hormone goes up. So your body becomes stressed. So restricting your calories too little can cause more stress on your body. That can cause also your metabolism to slow down because you're not giving your body enough. So that also causes weight gain. When cortisol is spiked constantly, that spikes your blood sugar, and that causes fat gain as well. Plus, exercising more all the time is also causing stress to the body because you're not eating enough and fueling your body, and you're exercising too much. And one of the most common symptoms of menopause is insomnia, not sleeping well. So that little sleep that women are getting, the inconsistent, low quality sleep, plus the eating too little, plus the exercising too much, that combo is just calling for visceral fat and belly fat. So when I tell women that this is how many calories you need, like you need at least 1,200 to be in a healthy deficit where your body knows like, okay, she's not starving, but I'm in a good enough deficit where I can let loose of those fat cells. Plus exercising less, doing more high intensity workouts, more kind of moderate pace, weight training, taking longer breaks between sets. That causes your body not to stress out as much as high intensity workouts where you're just run constantly, keeping your heart rate up. Your body freaks out, thinks you're just stressed all the time because of the low hormones, because of the little sleep, because of the under eating. So once we fix that and focus on an anti-inflammatory approach, because women also become prone to inflammation. More belly fat equals more inflammation. Low estrogen equals insulin resistance, which causes inflammation and belly fat. It's the vicious cycle, plus the stress that women go through in menopause because of symptoms and maybe they're sandwiched in between like raising kids and also taking care of their family and parents and a full-time job. So all that stress causes belly fat. So important to focus on an anti-inflammatory approach, like we talked about, and avoiding inflammatory foods, which are found everywhere. Like we talked about the skinny popcorn yesterday, right? So just finding it's so important to not only read the front of the product because they always give you those attractive titles like skinny or 70% fat free or high in protein or all natural. But the key is turning it to the back and read the nutrition labels. What we want to avoid is added sugars. We want to avoid seed oils like canola oil and soybean oil and artificial sweeteners that are snuck in all our food. So focusing on whole foods and focusing on eating enough, focusing on not exercising too hard, focusing on also addressing your hormones, like through hormone therapy. Once you replenish your estrogen, the balance comes back to your body. So that also will help you have more energy and motivation Because if you're experiencing menopause symptoms and you have low motivation and fatigue and depression, how are you going to have the energy to also follow this plan, right? So you need to address everything together. So that's why we do the lab testing, check hormones and check everything, check the thyroid and sex hormones and hormone therapy, plus the nutrition, plus the exercise, plus the lifestyle changes. Everything has to be addressed, not only one thing. That is the key.
Yeah, and I think, Ella, I think you're right. When you first start trying to follow this way of eating and reading the labels, it can kind of feel a little maybe overwhelming or intimidating, because yeah, it does take a long time when you're first going. But Ella, now that you've been doing it for a while, do you feel like it still takes you a long time? I feel like now I kind of have like my go-to products, and so it makes it a little bit easier. I've done the reading, and now I have sort of my staple of products.
Well, yeah. I have, I mean, I know what I gotta take. Like my supplements, my food, and I'm the kind of person that I can eat, like, I have to keep it simple, because the more you add things and complicate it, then it gets hard. Like, just keep it simple. Like for me, I can eat the same thing for, you know what I mean? Like, this is what, and so, and Ollie goes, you're tracking, whatever. So like it kind of gets in a habit. So you just gotta make it a habit. And then once you start getting in there, then you add little things like, you're like, oh, let's add this. And if that didn't work, then you can adjust it. So, but
yeah, I mean, it takes time to build a habit. It's always hard in the beginning when you're transitioning your lifestyle and trying new things. But like Michelle, you've been with me for more than 6 months, right? So now it's like kind of on autopilot for you. Or Ella, you're still a couple months in, so it might take you maybe a little bit more to make this lifestyle on autopilot. But yeah, like addressing, if you are a person that likes to eat the same things every day, then we make a plan for that. Like, okay, you focus on those foods. If you like different recipes and you like variety, then you get the recipe book. So there's different options for different women, different lifestyles, different schedules, all these things. That is key as well, for sure.
Yeah, and I've kind of found like that balance where like earlier in the day, because I try to sometimes do a little bit of intermittent fasting, so I just kind of extend it a little bit longer, maybe like 16 hours. So I might do something easy in the afternoon, because I also work from home, so I don't have time to make a big midday meal. And I don't even like to eat a big meal midday. So I might do something like a smoothie, but I've got all this stuff stocked. It's a no-brainer. It takes me like a minute just to throw some stuff into my little magic bullet, make that, and I've got everything. But then for dinner, I like to mix it up, but then also I'm cooking not just for myself, but for the rest of the family. And that's one thing I really like about this way of eating. It's not a diet, it's just making healthy choices and some alternatives. But for the most part, I'm not having to make separate meals for myself and for my family. They eat the same things. Where when I was doing more restrictive diets like Whole30 or strict keto, they didn't want all that stuff, or they wanted the extra things. So now, like I said, I'm just cooking healthier. I like the flexibility and how we can make it work for us. We're not limited to eat only this or eat only that, which might help you lose a lot of weight up front, but then as soon as you stop, you gain it back. So this one has the flexibility. And even if we on a weekend or so kind of fudge it, which I do it now and then for sure, I don't freak out because I don't automatically gain back the weight. I might not see a shift down in the scale, but I don't see it go back up over one high carb meal.
Yeah, the key is flexibility. If it's something you can't sustain it and you can't follow for life, then what's the point? You can be restricted and cut your calories down and cut carbs and sugar and everything. But if you're not finding alternatives, I always believe in finding the substitute. If you love pizza, if you love bread, you can have bread and pizza, but what's the healthier alternative? How can you make a healthier version of it? So that is the goal with the recipe, because you got like dessert recipes and cookies and brownies and pizza and different like spaghetti and pancakes and oatmeal and things like that. So that's what's helping to make it sustainable, because you're not restricting yourself from any food and cutting down just the food category that you love. That doesn't make it sustainable. So finding alternatives making the healthier version of it is absolutely key.
And Ali, for women who are listening and might be dealing with menopause or starting to first experience symptoms, what is the very first step you think they should take? Like, okay, I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling like myself. Okay, besides emailing you, right? what's the first step two, let's say, that they should do?
Step one is always educating themselves. If they're realizing changes in the body, it's important. Education is key. Maybe watching YouTube videos, reading some articles, following channels on social media and YouTube channels that educate them on menopause, because it's so important for women to not feel alone. A lot of women I talk to, they feel like they're experiencing it by themselves and they feel like they're going crazy, and their doctor makes them feel like they're crazy. So they just feel isolated and they suffer in silence and they hold it in and they don't speak up about it. So when you like maybe join Facebook groups and realize that other women are experiencing those same symptoms, that at least makes you feel that you're not alone. Like, wow, it's not just me that is experiencing those new symptoms. So I'm not alone. You educate yourself about it and see what can I do to change it. There are treatments for menopause. So now we offer bioidentical hormones. You're simply replacing the hormones that your ovaries thought produced through bioidentical, through hormones that are identical to the natural hormones you produce, and they're derived from natural sources like soy and yam, versus the hormones they used in the past, which are derived from a pregnant female horse's urine, and that is synthetic, that is not identical to what you produce as a woman. So that causes many unwanted side effects. So that fear of cancer, like we talked about, a lot of women fear cancer regarding hormone therapy. It's because of a false study that they did early in the late 1990s, which is called the Women's Health Initiative. This was the single biggest study done for women. 10,000 women were included in that study. And the goal of it was to assess the risks and benefits of hormone therapy for menopause. It turns out that this study had a lot of flaws. The average age of the women in this study was 63. That means they were at least 10 years post-menopause. And we know that a woman, the longer you wait while you live on low hormones, the more symptoms you develop, the more in risk you are of hormones not working for you. So you want to start hormone therapy as close as possible to your menopause window. That would be the best time to start. And also they were using synthetic hormones from pregnant female horse's urine that is not identical to the hormones you produce. And they were taken orally. Oral estrogen can increase risk for clotting. Now we take it through a patch or a cream through the skin, so it bypasses the liver, it goes directly to the bloodstream. Plus, these women were not healthy women. They had high cholesterol, they were diabetic, they had previous heart diseases, they were smokers, they were obese. So they were not healthy. It's important to lead a healthy lifestyle first before starting hormones, that they work as best as possible with your body. So you see how many different flaws there is in that study. Not only that, the results were not even statistically significant, meaning that, let's say, 2 out of 10,000 women before hormone therapy got breast cancer. Now, after hormone therapy, 3 out of, or let's say 4 out of 10,000 had breast cancer. Does that sound statistically significant to you?
No, of course not. Yeah.
But if I told you hormone therapy doubles your risk for cancer, so 2 to 4 is double. But the way I'm sounding it and wording it, that sounds more scary, right?
Right.
So the results of that study were that hormone therapy causes a 26% increase in breast cancer. And since that came out, they wanted to kind of shake up the medical system. And until this day, after this study and the results, hormone therapy prescriptions dropped by 70%. Women flushed the hormones down the toilet, and that's it. That since then, there's that fear of hormones causing cancer. And doctors still believe it until this day, and women still believe it until this day. But what they used in the past, and that study was just so flawed. And for a study to be legit, there has to be multiple studies that agree with it, right? Like if you look at articles about smoking and studies about smoking, they all say that the longer you smoke, the more likely you are to develop lung cancer. So that they confirmed the results. There is not a single study done that confirms that hormone therapy causes cancer, bioidentical hormones. There's actually studies that show that bioidentical hormones prevent the risk of cancer and can decrease your risk. And hormone therapy can actually decrease your risk for osteoporosis, heart disease, and dementia, which are 3 big diseases that can happen the longer a woman lives on low hormones, because estrogen impacts your brain and your heart and your bones. So it's not only important to start hormone therapy for your symptoms, for preventing those 3 big diseases. So it can save your life, it can prevent hip fractures and bone breaks and heart disease and dementia. So that is the thing, is educating yourself, advocating for yourself. If you go to your doctor and your doctor brushes you off or gaslights you or tells you don't need hormone therapy or it causes cancer, don't just believe your doctor blindly. They did not study anything about menopause. They maybe got an hour education on menopause. They didn't study about hormone therapy. They studied medicine. That's the first step. When you get the power of knowledge and things make sense to you, you will know how to take the right next step instead of just suffering in silence. You don't deserve to suffer in silence. You deserve a better life. This is your time to thrive. You spent your whole life raising your kids and putting yourself last. It's your time to thrive now and take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So
It's funny you said that.
What's that?
Sorry. No, it's funny because so the other day I went to the doctor because I finally got to able to see my primary doctor. And I put down that I was having like menopause symptoms and hot flash, and see what she would say, and kind of like playing like, oh, I don't know like what's going on. And she's like, well, I can prescribe you hormone replacement, the hormones. She's like, but we only recommend you stay on it for 5 years. So why don't you just, deal with like the symptoms that you have? You can take estrogen, the black cohosh. She said, I can prescribe you anxiety medicine. They usually treat it for anxiety. And I was like, I just kind of was like, no, I don't want to do that. She's like, well, she did give me high blood pressure because when I went to the doctor, which is, like typically you get, you're nervous. So my blood pressure is high. So she gave me blood pressure medicine. And, but she said, in 5 years, we only recommend that you take the hormones for 5 years. So you're going to have to wean yourself anyway. So why don't you just she kind of just said, why don't you just kind of figure out the symptoms? So I was like thinking to myself, so you're saying I have to suffer for like the rest of the time? So that's what and so,
like, suck it up, buttercup.
Suck it up, 5 years, for 5 years, I have to do before I started working with you, I just had like Michelle, like I was working out. I tried to change my diet. I started like not eating. So I was like, I whatever I did, excuse me, wasn't working. What I used to do, I used to work out, do high intensity workouts, cut my calories, all that stuff. It stopped working. So then we go to the doctor and they tell you, well, just take this here and take that. And we're just supposed to deal with it, I guess.
It's terrible.
The good news is, oh, sorry. I was gonna say the good news is Ella also, I know, Ella has an appointment with my gynecologist who did prescribe me estradiol. I always say it wrong. The estradiol and the progesterone, which is what the goal was. So hopefully she'll get the same. But that's just crazy, Ella.
Yeah, craziness. Just like I said, they're not the proper people to help you. They just don't know how to help you. When you go to your doctor and they brush you off on hormone therapy or scare you, it's because they don't know enough about it. So you need a menopause trained specialist. That is the key. It's not just random for your family doctor. That's the key.
So Ali, is it so like in this case with Ella, who was sneaky and didn't tell her doctor she was already on the estradiol and progesterone? Love that. But in a case like this, is the reason her doctor didn't want to prescribe the HRT because does that go back to that original study you were talking about? Do they think the risks are so high that they rather just treat the symptoms with like anti-anxiety medications or high blood pressure medications? Do they think that's a better alternative than risking what they believe to be the other outcomes from that study that were done? Is that what we're basically looking at?
Yeah, it's either that fear of hormones causing cancer because of that study, or they just simply don't know how much to prescribe you. Like hormone therapy, just is not a magic formula for everybody. Everybody needs monitoring. You need one-on-one monitoring. So you need to spend time with the patient to make sure they're on the right form, they're on the right dose, their symptoms are getting better, to do frequent lab testing, to check levels, to make sure your hormones are optimal. So they need frequent monitoring, and the doctor just doesn't spend that time. They don't have that one-on-one time. You know, some women that I work with, they want to schedule a doctor appointment just to talk to them about hormone therapy, and the earliest appointment is 2 months from now.
Yeah.
So they just don't have the time, or they don't want to maybe spend the time with the patient too, because it takes monitoring. They can't just prescribe it to you and say, okay, you're on your own. Like, it needs monitoring. So that also is a part. And the fear of cancer. So it depends on the doctor.
You mentioned earlier that it's important that we have support. And for a lot of women, support is directly in our own home, right? That could be our husbands, our life partners. What is the number one thing women should be asking from their partner to get that support, especially if their partner is either a man who obviously can't walk in our shoes and will never experience menopause, or their partner just isn't in that phase of life yet?
Yes, I'd like to start first about something that I mentioned also on my posts, is why me as a male is trying to help women in menopause, right? Why not? Why not men be more involved and care about empowering women and helping when it comes to menopause? Why not? You know, why not change things? Like, why not change things? I personally, I get some comments, like maybe like the 1% that tell me like, stop mansplaining to us, or like get a uterus and then talk to us. Like, I get some of those comments, which they did hurt in the beginning, but I realized like, okay, women are right. They have the right to think, why is a male trying to help me about my menopause and my symptoms and teaching me about my body? It's because why not change things? Why not have men be more advocating for women's health and empowering women and helping them? Why not have honest men that truly have genuine intentions and don't want anything in return? Why not change things? It's important to do that, because my mom suffered, my grandma probably suffered, your mother suffered, like your aunt, everybody in our family that went through menopause most likely suffered, but they don't speak about it. So why not change things, especially when it comes to men being more involved, instead of calling maybe their wife like, you're moody all the time, you change, like you're tired all the time, or things like that. Like, to educate yourself and actually listen and advocate and be there for them, instead of just assuming that they're different or moody or whatever. So that's what I'm all about. Like, part of my journey in this field is to also change the things, that the way that things are when it comes to men being more involved, like husbands for their wives and their mothers and partners and boyfriends or whatever. So it's important to change things when it comes to that. So when it comes to your question, first is listen to what they have to say. Like, for the woman, it's important to also express yourself and communicate with your husband or partner on what you're experiencing. So first, educate yourself. Like I said, once you have that power of knowledge, share it with your partner or husband. Like, tell them exactly what you're going through. Like, this is why I'm feeling tired. This is why my libido is lower. This is why I'm fatigued. This is I'm experiencing hot flashes. So when they communicate with that, and then the men just listen and be patient and empathetic, listen actively, and then that communication helps change things for them. Maybe the husband can encourage self-care for them, like to take a break, get a massage, or participate in things that they enjoy, and also offer practical support in the house, maybe help with household chores and helps with preparation and childcare and things like that. That will be important to support your wife or your partner.
That's smart. Ali, thank you so much for joining us today. Any last thoughts you would like to close us out with today?
I'm just very happy to do this interview with you, and I hope that a lot of women watch this, and maybe men as well, just learn from it. Education is so important, having the power of knowledge, so that things make sense to you, that you have the knowledge to take the right next step, and know that hormones don't cause cancer, and know that following an anti-inflammatory approach and eating more, exercising less is key for weight loss. Like, the power of knowledge is key for you to take the right next steps. And if you need help, maybe you can contact me or contact somebody that you feel like is specialized. Like, take action and not suffer in silence. You don't deserve to suffer in silence. There are solutions and treatments to what you're going through. So take action and advocate for yourself. That is number one for sure.
And Ollie, we will certainly put your contact information in the description if anyone would like to reach out to you directly. So thank you for coming on. And as always, we'd love to share your stories. If you would like to come on as a guest or just chat with us, please reach out to us through our YouTube channel or email us at menopauseunfiltered@gmail.com. Ella, want to close us out?
Yep, sure. And follow and subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I guess iHeartRadio. So I guess we'll see you later.
Woo, love it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you for having me.